I've decided to take a little walk today. Today's Saturday, April 2nd, 2022. And I'm down on the railroad track. This railroad track is the old CH&D Railroad. Chesapeake and Dayton is what CH&D stands for. Right there is the old B&O line. This was all B&O line. Over there stood the old West Junction Tower at one time. And they pulled this track back in somewhere around 1993, I believe. And this went all the way that direction in behind my brother's log house and on to Vigo and then on through Londonderry or past Londonderry to the west, southwest of Londonderry and on into Chillicothe. It was originally called the Marietta-Cincinnati Railway. This section of line was built through here in about 1855. At one time, right here in the brush, stood a depot as well as a house with a store. And this was called West Junction. And up on the hill, you can see the blue roof. That is my A-frame. So we're going to get on down the line a little bit, and we're going to go dig some flowers at an old abandoned home site back in the hills. We'll see you here in a bit. I'm walking up now close to the old railroad trestle back here on the CH&D. This railroad line actually runs from West Junction over to Richmonddale. And as you can see, they just replaced the boards on the walkway, which I am so glad to see that. As I get older, my footing is not as steady as it used to be. I've had a knee replacement and I've got arthritis, and so walking these railroad ties across the center of the trestle, while I can do it, it's just so much easier to walk on the walkway. And that's just the way it is for an old guy. So we'll get over here on the walkway and walk the new walkway. And it is creaking a little bit, but it is steady. I'm taking it easy because I've got a handful of stuff, and I will see you on the other side. We are just down the tracks a ways, and you can see back there, as you can see in the distance, is where I come from, the railroad trestle. In the last year or two, they've made an effort. They're starting to upgrade our power grid in this area, and they are in the process of replacing the old wooden poles with metal poles. And they have been in here cutting brush, clearing out the right of way. They came from over the hill that direction and have come in here. They've got a ramp built up here, as you can see, right up to the railroad track, almost like a dock or something. I don't know whether they hauled these in here on the railroad track or what, but they've come across here, the railroad, and they've cleared the brush, and there's the old wooden poles there, and off in the distance, it just keeps going and going. Over on Vigo Road, they've already made it to there with the new poles and new line, and this is about a mile, maybe 2 miles from the Vigo substation, and it just kind of give you a little overview of what everything looks like. They got that ramp built there and hillside all cleared off, and so be nice having a more stable electrical grid. In the process, a lot of times nature suffers, but it will grow back. Nature has a uncanny ability, God-given ability to recover from all this. We'll see you on down the track. We are down the track just a little ways and wanted to include this in the video. Right here is Big Salt Creek coming from the north, and this is Little Salt Creek that comes out of Jackson County, down in near the town, the town of Jackson. It flows through the town of Jackson, becomes bigger as it flows kind of to the north and west from Jackson, and comes up here and it joins up with Big Salt Creek, and then it flows on down to the west, the south and the west, to Richmondale, and it empties into the Scioto River. These creeks got their name because of the salt licks that the animals had discovered back in the day, and would lick areas of the banks and to get salt. The first settlers in Jackson, and I'll do a video on that later, be included in a video about Hewitt the Hermit. He was a hermit that lived in the Scioto Valley and up on the Scioto trails. But the salt, they would boil the water at times out of the creek to get salt. They also would dig the deposits of salt along the banks. Across the field there is a farm that my grandparents lived on back when my dad was a teenager, when my mom and my dad first met and fell in love. And that's where my dad lived. The old house is gone. A couple of the outbuildings are still there. The old smokehouse is still there. The old chicken coop is still there. The barn is still there. So there's 3 or 4 old outbuildings still there. But we always called it the old Miller place. So we're going to leave here and we're going to go on down to the next stop. Will be the home of Teeny Salts, or what once was the home of Teeny Salts and the Salts family. Okay, we have arrived to my destination. And in this area right here in this patch of woods, there once stood a house. There's probably a little bit of the remnants left. We'll get that on video here in a bit. When I was a kid, it was still standing. When I was a teenager, it was still standing. But I guess I was a kid. I'm 62 years old now. When I was in my 20s and my 30s, it was still standing. But it has since fell. One time you could get into the upstairs of it, and it was just an typical old Appalachian home that was way far out in the hills, no road into it. They had an outhouse. There was a spring down in the hollow, down in that ravine down in there. There's a spring. They carried water from there. Wasn't a very good living. Wasn't an easy place to live. They walked to Richmondale that direction from time to time, and then they would walk this direction back to the direction I came from, and out the lane past my house and up to the West Junction Church to go to church on Sundays. Mrs. Salts, her name was Teeny, is what we always called her, but the records, her names were spelled Tiny, but I'm not sure how it was originally pronounced, but our family always knew her as Teeny. And of course, back there you see that field, once again, clear back there. That's across the creek where my grandparents lived, and her and my grandmother were good friends and went to church together. So just pan around here a little bit more. We'll take a pause and I'll get up there and we'll film some more. All right, we are here to where what my destination was. And as you can see, there are some daffodils. I came back here to dig some daffodils because I knew these daffodils have a kind of more of a meaning. I could go to Walmart or Menards or Lowe's and I could buy some, but these are the old original, I guess you'd call them heirloom daffodils. These things bloom all through the hills in southern Ohio. They where old homesteads once used to be. Standing here, sometimes I can almost hear the laughter of the children and the mom screaming at the kids to come in because it's dark and it's time to get in out of the hills and come home and eat supper, if they had much to feed them at the time. From my understanding, this family had it rough. They were not a wealthy family. And so they lived, especially after her husband died. Her husband died early on in the 1950s, I believe. And for the next 10 years, the family had it real rough. And so some of the boys left and went to live other places. One joined the military, I believe. And like I said, the daughter went to live in New Holland with an aunt, Teeny's sister, I believe. And then Teeny eventually left and went with her daughter to New Holland. And that's where she lived out her days. And I believe that's where she's buried. But we come back here to dig some daffodils. I wanted to pan around here, show you the railroad track is right there. Over here, you can see the post and see the old hinge for the old gate post. That was the front gate where they came into the house, came into their yard. This sets about 30 yards off the railroad. And you come in what used to be the front gate. The old fence is still there. So it holds a lot of memories for me as a kid coming back here and visiting. And just looking and poking around. Like I said, they were gone by the time I was old enough. But a lot of times my mind just goes wandering, and I think about the families and what life was like living back here in these areas, in these hills, all away from modern conveniences and away from the world pretty much. But Mrs. Saltz, she loved to go to church, and she went to church with my grandma. And some of the locals would help them, and of course they helped each other. That's the way neighbors were. If Mrs. Saltz had something to give, she would give. If my grandma Baxter had something to give, she would give. If my grandma Ingham, who lived in the house where I grew up, just up the road from where I live now, she would give, and people would give back and forth. Remember my dad talking about back in the day, if somebody bought a ham and they were wealthy enough to butcher a hog and had a smoked ham, they would have ham for Sunday dinner, and then they would give the ham bone to a neighbor, and the neighbor would use that to make a pot of beans with, because once one family was done with it, they pass it on, and another family would be able to glean a little bit of meat off that bone in a pot of beans and make another meal out of it. So that's just the way life was, and that's the way that this family lived their life. And I think that we should be grateful for what we have now in our modern conveniences and the wealth that we have. Even the poorest of the poor in our nation are wealthier than 3/4 of the population of the world. And just think about that and ponder on that a little bit. I'm going to get busy. I'm going to dig me some daffodils, and I'm going to get out of here. I want to mention also the forsythia bushes. These bushes, we had our third snow yesterday since these bushes have bloomed. And these are beautiful. I didn't realize these were here, but these are absolutely beautiful bushes. So just wanted to share that. Talk to you in a bit. I wanted to get a picture of what's left of the old house. As you can see, it is collapsed. Get in here on the wall through the brush here. Get some view of it. I would say that much after this time, there's going to be quite a few snakes crawling in and out of the depths of this. So the old roof is right up there and everything else is right here on the ground. Just a whisper of what it used to be. So only thing left here now are kind of probably ghosts, I would say. And I'm not a person, a real big believer in ghosts, but if there are ghosts, and they do exist, I imagine there's one or two that kind of hangs out here. Because I'm not sure that the Saltz family was the first family to live in this house. So who knows? But the forsythia bushes are gorgeous. And I will probably have to come back here at a later time and dig one of these so that I will have a forsythia bush in my yard. So I'll see you in a bit. Okay, here's my haul for today. I got a couple little branches off the forsythia bushes here, and I got me some daffodils. I do not know whether I can get these branches to sprout roots or not. I think I might be able to put them in a potato and get them to sprout branches, or maybe even put in the graft them into something else. But anyway, I'm going to try. And I got my trusty pistol. That is a Heritage Rough Rider 22 caliber with a 16-inch barrel. And I got my hillbilly sling on it. And a little bit of water left in my water bottle. And I am heading out and going to head back to the house. But this has been a good day. I'm glad I got to come back here today and see this place once again. And look forward to getting my flowers planted and see if I can grow some forsythia bushes. You have a nice day. Bye.